Share your screen now and I will spotlight you. Skyler will be answering questions after after she speaks. But if you would please put your questions for her in the chat. And again, Carol and I will be monitoring the chat and we'll get to all of your questions.
Okay. You guys hear me okay?
Yes. Yeah, we can hear you.
Great. And can you see my screen okay?
We can't see your screen yet. We see
Can't
you.
see my screen yet. All
No.
right.
We
Give me
have
one second. Let's do this again, shall we?
Okay.
Ah,
There you go.
how's that? Good.
We haven't actually seen it yet, but yes, there it is.
Now you got it? Okay. So you
Terrific.
can see me, I can see you. Yeah?
Right.
Great. Okay. First of all, just thank you so much for having me. I really love getting to hang out with like fellow art nerds and talk about our work. So I think what I'm going to do is, and again, if you have questions, put them in the chat because I really do want to get to all of them, but I'm bad at like looking at the screen and then reading the chat at the same time. That's not my forte. So I think what I'll do is I'll just share a couple images of my work. And then what I'd like to do is take you back a little bit to the chronology of it, because I think that it's always really interesting to see how an artist kind of follows their own breadcrumbs, right, to their own work. So this is an example of my work. I am a mixed media artist. I work primarily in encaustic, but I kind of bring a whole bunch of different methods into my encaustic practice. And then, as Lorraine said, I'm currently exploring sculpture because more is more. So this is an example of what I do. My work is highly organic, very colorful, has a lot of mark making in it. This is another piece. This is a pretty large piece. It's about 4 by 4 feet. And here you can see that I use compost printing and I use drawing and I use painting, as well as traditional collage methods like paper and that kind of thing. And actually what started me in my new pursuit of ceramics is Lorraine introduced me to something called paper clay, which if you've never used is like the best new toy. You can buy it and it works like clay, but it dries like paper. And so I started developing that in tandem with my collages and began building sculptural forms on top of my encaustic, and then also burrowing little holes in the encaustic and putting the sculptural forms inside. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. But if we go back to the beginning, as Lori said, I am from Colorado, and if you've never been to Colorado, you should definitely go because it's wonderful. And where I lived in particular was in a very wooded nature area. And I say lived kind of loosely because I actually moved around a lot as a child. By the time I was 21, I'd moved 21 times. And then I stopped counting because I thought it was crazy. All within Colorado, but my dad was kind of a blue collar worker and he worked construction and we just went where the work was. And so I loved nature, and nature was kind of my only home, right? Because my actual house was always changing, but the nature in Colorado was so pervasive. And I was actually blessed to my grandfather had a little cabin that at one point we lived in, which it was a summer home that we lived in throughout the winter. So my parents were brave. But especially in the mountains, I had a sense of being home in the mountains. And so the beginning of my work really started in nature, looking at our habitat, but using our habitats to talk about our habits, right? So this is a large piece that I created. This is about 4 by 4 feet. And in this is my thesis work. In this body of work, what I was doing is I was taking animals from nature that had different habitats, and I was making them share the same space. So in this case, it's a crab, a sea animal, and a heron, a sky animal. And I was pushing them together to try to get them to have to form a visual relationship. Here, it's a little bit more abstracted, but I have a ram and a buffalo and a platypus and a lobster, and they're all kind of smashed together. And these are big, colorful paintings. You can tell at this point that I'm doing a lot of painting. They're highly gestural. There's a lot of color. There's a lot of abstract expressionist influence in the work. And the work was about how we're this and we're this and we're this and we're this, and somehow we have to kind of make a space for all of that, right? Especially as someone who moved a lot. I felt like I had kind of been everywhere, but I didn't really belong anywhere. And so I had to take these disparate pieces of my life and figure out how to hold them together in one habitat. So this was my painting work. And then you can see in the upper left-hand corner of the ram's horn, again, some of it's more abstracted than others. My work actually always kind of does that. I've got a little bit of representation and a little bit of abstraction, and it kind of toggles back and forth along that line. I do find that some people, the people who care about my work, some people really love the abstraction, and then some people really love the representation, and they really want me to kind of go in one direction or the other. But I really enjoy staying right on that line and holding that tension. So you can see in the upper left-hand corner, I've got this ram's horn and there's an eye there. And you can see there that I'm also doing a lot of drawing in my work. And that brings me to the next body of work, which I did at the same time as these paintings. And I point that out simply because I think it's a really great way to visualize how I was trying to bring a whole bunch of different elements together into one thing. So simultaneously, as I was doing these big gestural paintings, I started making these quilted drawings. And these are big. These are about 4 by 4 feet. And they too, the main subject matter of it is animals that would not normally share space, sharing space. Okay, so here is an antelope and several seahorses. Here is a llama and some crayfish. And here we've got some lizards and some lionfish. And in each of these, I'll go back actually. In each of these, I not only have the animals, but I'm also introducing a grid format in here. It's not it's not an equidistant grid, but I'm introducing these lines and this kind of structural space that becomes really important to my work later on. In addition to that, I'm also I started, you see the kind of transparent fabric pieces that are sewn over the drawings? Those have what looks like just abstracted organic imagery, but in reality, it's actually the forms of botany under a microscope. Okay, so plants really, really, really close up on these transparent overlays. And then in addition to that, I have some stitching in the pieces, and the stitching is actually maps. Okay, so in this body of work, I'm just trying to figure out where I am. Like, where am I? Who am I? I'm also in my 20s, so that's like the big question, right? But these pieces really are a good example of me trying to get really, really close to things and also really, really far away, right? And I see the grid work and the maps. So I'm looking at things from way above. I'm looking at things from as close as I can get. And then I'm taking disparate elements and I'm putting them together. So this was my kind of like debut as an artist, working in the world. And then I moved away from Colorado. And this was the first time that I had left my own habitat, really. And I moved with my husband. I was newly married, and we moved to North Carolina so that he could go to grad school. And I left my arid mountain home, and I was experiencing humidity for the first time. And I was in this tiny, tiny, tiny apartment. And I no longer had a big studio space that I could go and make work in. So I started creating these works because I missed the large scale work. And I thought to myself, if I can't work out, I'm going to learn how to work up. So in my tiny little apartment, in the humidity, and there's cockroaches everywhere because apparently that's a thing in the South. And we were poor. So that might have had something to do with our little tiny humidity run apartment had some wildlife that I may not have enjoyed as much. I started creating these pieces, and they were the same concept and the same ethos of my other work of different creatures sharing the same space. But I wanted to make these big, expansive paintings, and I couldn't. So instead, I got these tiny pieces of wood. There were 4 by 4 feet. And I created these pieces with resin. I developed a technique where I would make a drawing on the wood, and then I would pour a layer of resin, a really, really thick layer of resin, and let it dry. And then on top of that resin, I would make a painting. And then I would pour another layer of resin and let it dry. And on top of that, I would make another drawing. And so I built these paintings and these collages. Each one probably has 5 pours of resin on them. And at that point, I was really looking at like the collapsing of space, right? Like I had these collages that if you looked at them compositionally, they worked together. But if you looked to the side, you could see that they were stacked on top of one another. And that was important to me because at that point I was really looking at how do you layer your life? How do you stack your life? And specifically, how do you make sense of the parts of your life that you can't access anymore, right? Because working with the resin was very different in process than working with a painting or with a drawing. Because with a drawing, I could go in and I could erase and I could manipulate the work before it. But with the resin, once I poured it, it was done. And then all I could do is integrate it. And I found that process to be something I was using to really process my own experience of moving away and having this previous life in Colorado. And I couldn't go in and tweak it anymore. I was in a new place. So how could I integrate it? So I really love this work. This, I think, was a really fun way for me to develop a new vocabulary, but I did not enjoy the actual process of working with the resin because it's really, really toxic. And I certainly did not have access to like proper ventilation and that kind of thing. And so while I loved the result, I didn't stick with the resin process because I didn't actually enjoy the feel of making it. And I figured that since I make work out of a pursuit of joy, I should actually enjoy the actual process. So I was still trying to kind of find a place to hold all of these elements. And then I had a baby. And then shit got real because it was no longer how do I develop a safe space for me? How do I make sense of my own life? But it was, how am I going to do this for another human being? Right. So I came across this article when my daughter was probably a couple months old. And it showed, it was a National Geographic article. It was like a half page. I mean, it was not a big deal, but it showed these pictures of these nests that were built by a bee that lives in Iran. And the bee flies throughout its environment, and then it digs a hole and it brings different flower petals from various flowers into the hole, and it layers them. And then it uses its body fluid to like kind of glue it together, and then it seals it, and it is flood proof and predator proof once the bee has sealed up its little flower nest. And when the scientists unearthed them, they're the most beautiful things because they're a flower that would never exist, right? They're from this flower and this flower and this flower and this flower. And this little bee has unknowingly created this incredible work of art. And I thought, okay, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to go throughout my entire life, my entire experience, and gather from this source and this source and this source and this source, and bring it all together into something that is both beautiful and really strong. So this is me exploring this idea and really starting to use collage as a way of physicalizing the process of trying to gather things that mattered and put them in a safe spot, right? Which I have found for my own process, the kind of artist that I am, is that my methods that I work in tend to kind of mirror my my personal experience, right? Like I need to work in such a way that as I make my work, I'm kind of working out what I'm going through in life. So I started bringing all of these collage elements together. Here you can also see me introducing some really strong structure. I mentioned the grid before, and in this case, it's not a grid. In this case, it is line-a-cut prints that I created, which are the kind of organic, they almost look like vines. That's a line-a-cut print. And then there's a print also of concentric circles, which is of the rings of a tree. And I'm using these kind of strong structures to interrupt the highly organic nature of the composition. So it's both a formal device and also a conceptual device, because I'm trying to work with the ways that we structure our lives and then the kind of wildness that is thrown at our lives. I also, at this point, was starting to really ground my work in some tension and having some darker colors that infused the work, not because I wanted to talk about darkness necessarily, but because our lives are full of it. And so it is important to me as I make my work that I'm creating something that is beautiful. Beauty is important to me. But I don't want to make anything that's too easy. I want to make something that has some meat on the bones and some that you have to dig for it a little bit. And so I try to build structures or colors or interrupt things in such a way that that you have to engage the piece a little bit for it to work for you, right? I also, as I was working with this collage, this kind of collage type medium, began to really understand that my aesthetic is very maximalist, right? And it's not just the context of my work, it's also the content of my work. Where a composition would be really nice and like good and done, I would push it further. And I've come to know about my own work that is very important to me, that the work itself has a sense of density to it. And the truth is that the reason the density is important to me is because we are all exposed to so many things all at once, all the time. And we don't get much of a choice about how much we have to hold at any given moment, right? So the best we can do is hold it well. And my work is a visual exploration of taking all of these things that I experiences I've had, memories, choices, things in the world, things in my life, even just turning on the news, right? All of these things kind of show up in my studio, and then I have to figure out what to do with them. That is my process. And I was still trying to figure out a medium that could accommodate all of those different methods, right? I wanted something that could kind of like alchemize them and take all of like this piece of paper, this piece of fabric, this stitching, again, very painterly, but also I really want to draw things in like really specific ways. And I was just looking for a medium that could hold those things. So I started trying to work with encaustic. And this was, I mean, what was this? Probably 10 years ago, something like that, I think. Encaustic, maybe, no. Oh gosh, I think it was maybe like 14 years ago. Anyway, encaustic was not a readily available method that I could learn about at that point. It was kind of just creeping up into the art world as something that people were, the people who were doing it were very good at it, and there were not that many of them. And so I took this workshop from a woman who didn't know what she was doing, which was very, very sad, because I spent a year with encaustic medium cracking on me and falling off the substrate. And I was like, I must be really bad at this. And then I took a workshop with Lorraine Glester, and it was this like aha moment for me, because she showed me how fiber and painting and paper and collage and like really, really refined work and really gestural work, stitches, all of these things could kind of be in the same spot, and it could turn into one object. And it had the opposite, I had the opposite experience of it as I did with the resin, right? All of a sudden, where the resin was caustic and the resin was toxic, and I wanted to get away from it, now my studio smelled like honey. And I actually did do I had a show once, and that I had a short turnaround, and it was an encaustic show, and it was in Colorado. And so I decided to do my encaustic work outside, which was really fun. I like pulled a whole bunch of craft tables out and set them up, and I have my blowtorch, and I've got all the encaustic medium, and the bees were just like everywhere. Because they loved the smell of, like, they're like, this is our home. And I ended up having to go get a picnic. It was like a picnic hood, I think is what they called it. It looks like a basket, but it's got a handle. And I had to put it over my encaustic medium when I was working in it so that the bees wouldn't fly into the medium and drown themselves. But I just fell in love with the tactility of it, right? And I fell in love with the way it could accommodate all of these different ways that I wanted to work, and I could put them into one place, right? So I spent several years developing that work, because encaustic is just beautifully easy to learn, very difficult to master, right? So, which is kind of the best of both worlds. And I explored more and more the density that I wanted to go for. A kind of funny story is, once I had I was in a show, and there was a person. My show's been written about like twice in my whole life, so not that fancy, but this one person was writing about my work, and it was a group show. And so in the article, the writer said, we turned from this elegant piece that was by someone else, and to Skyler McGee, who is in the more is more category. is what he says in the article. And so my beautiful husband likes to call me Skyler More is More McGee, which I'm okay with. So why? Like, why more is more? And specifically, as I'm talking with y'all, uh, not just why more is more, but why collage, right? Um, because there are a lot of critiques about collage, and are we just like cut and pasting here? Am I just doing more is more because I don't know how to stop, or because I like this and I like that and I'm gonna just keep it all? Um, there's some truth to that. I like this and I like that and I'm gonna keep it all. But it's more than just that, right? Critiques of collage makers would say that we make collages because we lack expertise in one specific medium. Okay. And my professional, nuanced response to that critique is that is what I think about that critique. And I actually do have some professional and nuanced thoughts about it in addition to that. We live in a very peculiar time in our world where we are exposed to more information in an hour than we used to receive in a month, right? We have stimuli given to us from all directions all day long. And the amount of information and even like the tactile information that we're given, like in any given day, we're going to get a whole bunch of junk mail. We've got these clothes, we've got our phones, we've got the outside world, the inside world. We're inundated with sensory information. And collage, I think, at its best, is actually a form of practicing anthropology. Okay, we are in real time interacting with human contemporary artifacts, okay? And we're doing something with them. In fact, collage methods, the fact that what we do is we take all this stimuli, all this information, and we decontextualize it, right, from where it came from. We bring it together and we recontextualize it into something that has meaning, and something that has some sort of organization that comes from inside us, right? We make something different based on what we were given. That is what we as humans are having to do every single day. And it mirrors our psychological and our social responsibilities, right? So we're at this really interesting time where, I mean, I think human beings are kind of collage makers in their head all day, every day. We're having to sort information. And as artists who are participating in that methodology, I think we actually are offering something really healing to the world. Okay. We're physicalizing what everybody's having to do all the time. But we're doing it in a way that offers almost like a little bit of medicine for it. Like sometimes if I'm in a real like woo-woo place, I imagine myself being in my studio and like making tinctures and making salves for wounds. Like that's my experience of being a collage maker. So continuing on with my own story, I still really wanted this kind of intensity, this density, this you're looking at one thing, but in the one thing, there's probably 11 different images, right? And I started to organize that density through more recognizable formal shapes. And actually, as I've been working through this last encaustic piece, you might have noticed that rabbits are a theme that I worked with for several years, and it is not surprising that I was having many babies. So that was a very kind of like fertility symbol for me working through. I have 3 beautiful children, and I was trying to make art. So are these 2 rabbits holding the same bowl, trying to make something structurally sound, right? I started realizing that my work had so much stimuli that people sometimes were having a hard time entering it. It was like they couldn't find like the door handle, sort of. And so I started bundling the works into more formal, recognizable shapes. Okay, so shapes are everywhere in our life. Like here is a wrapper from a fig bar that I ate earlier today, right? This is a shape. It's a really interesting shape, actually. But when you say the word shape, we think circle, square, triangle, rectangle, because that is what we're taught. So I've started using these formal elements, these formal shapes, to try to harness all of that intense imagery and use it as almost like a door handle for people to kind of understand it from afar and then be able to enter it. Okay, so if you're far away from this in a gallery, you see the oval, you can recognize the oval. And then when you get up close to the oval, holy crap, there's a lot going on. But there's enough of a doorway for you to stay and watch it, right? And really investigate it. And circles kept coming up over and over and over as I was utilizing these spaces. And because more is more, I was like, well, I'm making circles. What if I make circles? So then I started making circles. And this is a piece called Moon Dust. And it comes off the wall like probably like 8 inches. And it's a beautiful little half sphere. And I started thinking about how these spaces could come into 3-dimensionality, right? And the circles, they started to become vessels. And this piece is actually like if I had to like save one piece of my art in a burning building or whatever, it would be this, which is unfortunate because it's also made of wax. It probably wouldn't make it, but I love this piece of work. This one is called Carrier, and it is encaustic on bone, and then it is embroidered honeycomb. Here's a close-up of it. So I started creating these vessels, right? Like, again, how do we hold what we've been given? Here's another vessel. This is encaustic on glass. And I covered the glass in wax, and then I drew into it and painted on top of it. And I have my own hair in it. And then I have a dear friend who has some sheep. And so she brought me a whole bunch of raw sheep wool. And then I have another friend who's a beekeeper. And so I got some honeycomb from him. And I used an electronic light to light this up. And this piece is called Drum. Again, we're these containers. How do we hold what we've been given? How do we protect what is precious? So then I had the opportunity to make this giant sculpture. It's about 9 feet tall. And this piece is called Hide, Hide. And I made it through the pandemic. And Hide has 3 meanings of the word in this particular piece. Obviously, it is to make secret and safe, right? It is the skin of an animal. And a hide is also someplace where a hunter lies and waits for its prey. And so this piece is about, it's about safety and it's about belonging. It's a little bit about motherhood. It's a lot about community. It's about prayer and ritual. And inside, I'll show you the inside. This is what it looks like on the inside. When you go in, it's this honeycomb network. And in the exhibition, I left a table with small pieces of paper, and people were invited to write down the things that were heavy, and scroll them up and leave them inside the sculpture. And so by the end of the exhibition, the honeycomb was just inundated with all of these people's experiences. And I've saved the paper, and I'm going to make a piece with it in one way or another. But this particular piece was about, like, the inside of it is obviously really intimate, and the outside of it is like kind of like a garden, and also kind of like a cave, and definitely like an animal. Like, it even has some teeth in it, right? And I what it's so interesting, and I really wish that I might be a little bit more self-observant in the future, but I tend to know what things are about after I make them. Like, I generally think I know what I'm doing, and I'm like, this is what I'm doing in my studio. And then about 6 months, once I've had some distance from the piece, I'm like, oh. And I made this, and I was like, oh, this is a self-portrait, right? In the pandemic, right? And I've got these 3 kids who I just delight in. They are crazy. They're so fantastic and funny and sincere. And they have some very significant special needs. And motherhood is hard for me. And so this is a piece, again, more is more. Like, how do you make a place that is gorgeous and safe and real strong, like real durable? Then this is a piece, this is the whole piece of the detail that I showed you at the very beginning of the talk, where I talked about paper clay. I returned back to my circles, okay, and my strong shapes, and began working with building on top of them and building inside them. This was a very exciting body of work for me, because it really set me up for kind of what I'm making now. Lorraine kindly invited me to be a part of a show, and I had to learn how to ship these things across the country. And I did it. I was really proud. This piece is one of my all-time favorites. This one is called So Much to See in the Darkness. Okay. And this goes back really to some of the first pieces I showed you. You can see the gestural painting nature of it. And you can also see the really detailed, refined, you got to get close, right? To see the really the labor of it. I think some of my work is about how much time it takes, the labor of creating something really intricate. And this piece, again, I'm working with really strong formal elements, strong circle, strong square. And from a distance, the piece looks like almost like a really beautiful garden with a gaping black square. You can't see the details until you get right up close. So if you're in a dark time, you got something growing. You just got to get really, really close, right? I have a trilogy of encaustic pieces here, and these pieces demonstrate pretty thoroughly how I am now utilizing these strong formal elements to kind of be the container for some of these more dense organic compositions. So this piece is called Moss Time. And from a distance in the gallery, it looks very much like stripes, and it's got some really kind of clear structural ornamentation, right? And when you get up close to it, it actually has a moss garden that's painted in every single color, okay? So they're almost imperceptible far away. because the the color of the garden is the same color that it's on top of, right? But once you get up close, you can start to see that there's this garden growing in all of these stripes. It's important to me because I think it's very true of life that there's kind of like two experiences of my work, right? There's the experience from far away, and then there's the experience close up. Going back to my quilts, there's the map from far away, right? And then there's the microscopic work close up. This piece is called Tree of Life. And there is a motif in art history called the Tree of Life, particularly in tapestries. For many, many hundreds of years, painters have been painting these beautiful Renaissance tree of life, kind of a mythical metaphor, right? My favorite of all of these pieces have unicorns in them. Those are the ones I'm like, I really like this particular tree of life. And I had this idea to make a painting that was a tree of life, but it had all of these different kinds of fruit, right? Like not just one kind of fruit. Could it be a tree that produced all these wild parts of different kinds of fruit? And then some really intense experiences happened in my life. Life got really, really hard. And I was not at a stage where I was able to even really get into the studio. And I have a friend who lives in the Netherlands, so very different time zone than me. And she said, "Hey, Skyler, how you doing?" And I said, "I am not doing so hot." And she was like, "Oh, babe, I'm sorry." So she would take walks every day with her dog in the Netherlands, which is while I was sleeping, right? Like it's her daytime, she's taking walks, I'm sleeping. And she began taking photographs of beautiful things that she found on her walks and texting them to me, one every day. And she was like, "Listen, I don't need you to respond. I don't need you to say thank you. I don't need you to be thankful. I just think that you are someone who is healed by beauty, and I want to send you some beauty every day." So she started texting me these images of a seed pod and another little nest of seed pods and an orange and some mushrooms. And this entire piece is built of drawings of these pictures that she sent me. And I didn't tell her that I was drawing them because I didn't want her to feel obligated to send them to me. And so she sent me these pictures. She didn't know that I was drawing them at night and on like my living room floor. And they kind of nursed me back to health, right? They were like my tree of life. And then when the painting was done, I was able to send her a picture of it. And apparently she was in public when she like checked the email and started crying and like but this again was something really intimate, something very important to me that I wanted to nestle within these stronger formal elements, strong circles, strong arch, rectangles, give some people a handle for the work to come in close to it. This is the last of that trilogy, and this is called Every Story Has an Arc. And this is a vessel shape, okay? It is an abstraction of a vessel that is being filled up, like a bowl that's being filled up, and then one that's being poured out underneath it and having everything kind of pour out. And then the space between the two. Again, you can see just formally working with these half circles and the squares, trying really hard to give people enough structure to dig into it like a garden, right? Which leads me to my current body of work. Because I'm here and painting containers, right? And painting vessels. So then I was like, well, how about I make some vessels? And this is what I'm doing now. These pieces are not 100% finished. I still need to kind of tweak them just a little bit. But here I wanted to take the idea of, like I said, people know a circle, people know a square, they know an oval. They can kind of use that as a starting point, right? So I wanted to explore how I could do that with objects. So here is, I'm started making fountains, right? They're not water fountains, but they have a shape that is recognizable, right? Looks a little bit like you're in Italy and you turn a corner and there's like a fountain on the wall. Like it should have a lion as a like water spout, right? So I wanted to make these fountains, kind of like fountains. They're kind of like altars. They're kind of like gardens. Really, they're containers. I want people to get close to the containers, and I want to talk about the containers that we are. These are about, when you stand next to them or when you stand in front of them, they're a little bit taller than I am. In whole, they're about like 2/3 of my body. So they're a good like torso sized piece. These are made out of paper clay, and I've got encaustic on them. I've got rose petals. I've got other kind of flower petals. I've got lace. I've got drawing. I've more is more. I just am like pouring things into these containers. Again, there's the density, right? There's you look at this and there's just so much happening. And I want to talk about not just that we hold everything, but how we hold everything, right? Because it's not just that we're inundated with information all the time. We then have to do something with that information. We then have to do something with the tactility of our lives. We have to create containers to hold what is precious. So these are things like spiritual containers and family containers and cultural containers. For many of us, this would be like our art practice is a container for holding the contents that we're given, right? And it's not just the containers themselves, it's also the substance inside of it, okay? So this was probably the most surprising part of my program so far, is that I started visualizing what would happen if I poured water into the containers and I froze it. And then I lifted the water out like an ice cube, right? The shape of the inside. Could I physicalize that? Could I imagine what the substance inside the container looks like? And so this is my beginning of working toward that. So these pieces are wall pieces. And then this piece, size-wise, would fit inside the other containers. So these are the imagined substance, right? This is the spirituality. This is the love. This is the grief. This is the lament. This is the complexity and the paradox. Here you can see that I'm referencing time quite a bit in the striations of the geology. And also going back to the so much to see in the darkness piece, there's this sense of like at the base of our experiences, there's like something growing, right? This is my last image. It's in no way the end of my work in this body of work. I still have to make 3 more sculptures in 6 weeks before I have a big show. But I love making this work. And I love being able to show it. I truly feel like the work hasn't done its work until it's been seen by other people. Not because honestly, I couldn't care less if people like knew I made it, but it's just made to bring something to other people. That's part of its work in the world, right? But I would also make it if I were the last one on earth, because I need to make it for myself. And I don't write. I actually secretly, I do write, but I don't write publicly. But I read, and I love Mary Oliver as a poet. And the first book I finished by her many, many, many years ago, I closed the book and I thought to myself, if I could write like this, I would never have to paint. but I am not a poet. And so this is how I give to the world. Now it's your turn. Any questions you have?
Wow. Fantastic.
Unbelievable. Right.
That,
Totally
standing
brilliant,
out
brilliant, Skyler.
was so informative, and so heart-rendering and just exciting. And your work is so beautiful, and it has such meaning and expression. I'm very excited. And it's inspiring as well. So thank
Good.
you so much. And I think we'll go to the chats. I just had to say all those splendid words about your work.
Thank you.
We do have a bunch of questions.
Okay,
So-
I'm ready.
Okay. The first one, this goes back to the very beginning where you were doing the animals.
Here, I'll do that. We'll go back so that
Okay.
questions make sense with the work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you done or do you do observational drawings of animals?
Yes. They tend not to be quite as good because the animals move. But I actually think that my preference would be to do only observational and still life. I also draw a lot of plants. My preference would be to only draw from life because I truly believe that your eyes are a much better tool than a camera, right? Your eyes can pick up on things that a camera can't. So the subject might be still in a photograph, but there's a livelihood working from life that you can't really simulate when you work from a photograph. That being said, I don't live in my Colorado anymore, so I do a lot of working from pictures as well.
Okay, and then that was from Penny. My question is, what medium did you use for painting when you were doing the rosin
Oh, yes. So
in
what
between
I
the
did,
layers?
yep, in between the layers. So I would do a drawing on the wood, and then I'd pour the resin, I would let it cure, and then I would paint a thick layer of matte medium over it to give it some tooth. And it wasn't easy after it wasn't a drawing substrate, but it would take drawing a little bit, but it would take the paint and the ink and the paper. So I tended to try to do most of my graphite work first, and then I would do the resin, and then I'd do the matte medium, and then I'd continue.
Okay, so it was basically acrylic or watercolor?
Once I had the matte medium on the resin, then it was like I did a whole bunch of things. I did watercolor, I did acrylic, I think I even did oil, I did ink. That was kind of what was fun about it, was that the resin almost created these like microclimates for me to use whatever medium I wanted.
Uh-huh. Next question from Rosemary is, what size are these? And I think it was about at this point that she asked that question.
These are tiny. These are about 1 foot by 1 foot.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're teeny ones.
And oh, beautiful. Penny asked, what's the name of this bee that inspired you?
Oh, give me 1 second.
I actually put that in a link on the chat.
You did?
Oh,
Yeah.
that was that
You
bee.
scroll
Okay.
down.
Look at them. Aren't they beautiful?
Yeah.
It is called. You actually put it in the chat? I can write
I
it.
did. I put it in the
Okay.
chat. They're called the Osima avosita.
Yes.
Or it's kind of a long name.
Yes. Yeah, that's a scientific name. Osima
Oh,
avosita.
Uzbekosima.
Avosita. Yeah. So anyway, but they're from Iran. And if you just Google flower nests, Iranian bees, you'll get it.
Great.
This is a 13-year-old piece of paper that I have on my studio wall, just FYI.
Okay, I'm going to skip the comments about how wonderful your work is because you'll be able to look at those. So,
Thanks.
okay, next, let's see. Oh, Maida, do you have a stance on artificial intelligence?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, I don't have a stance per se, but I'm pretty sure that the more we learn about artificial intelligence, like you're not talking about extracurriculars, right? You're talking about like technology, artificial intelligence.
Probably,
Yes, I
Yeah.
think so.
Well, I really want there to be aliens. So if we talk about extraterrestrials, then I'm all about it. You know what I think about AI, guys? I think that technology can always be abused, right? And it can always be used as an incredible tool. And I think that I was reading recently an article about people talking about bringing lights into the homes, and people were panicking about the technology of lights being in homes. Like it just graded against their experience. And so while I don't have a position about AI, I do recognize that you can use any tool poorly. Like any tool can be a weapon, right? And there is no replacement for the human imagination. And there's no replacement for the human heart, right? So AI might be able to produce some incredible things, but I'm not afraid of that because that machine can't feel what I feel. And at the end of the day, the artists who mean the most to me are artists who communicate something that's a lot deeper than what I can see, right? Like when I look at someone's work, I see what they've made, but there's this whole substance behind it. The artists that I follow year in and year out are doing something far more powerful than creating a compelling composition or rendering an object, right? And so I would say that I think one of the biggest imperatives as an artist is that we try to not be afraid and we just continue to do our work.
Great.
Thank you.
Jennifer Robertson asks, how do you frame or display your work? In addition to single works, do you also create a series, for example, a grid to echo some of your underlying structure for a wall art display?
That's a really great question. I do work in multiples sometimes. I have made grids. I've thought about making grids more as I'm starting to work more sculpturally, because I like the idea of being able to make smaller sculptures that kind of create a larger composition. I like to work in diptychs because I think, in fact, most of my diptychs, here we'll go back. Here's a good diptych, are not, they're not equidistant, right? There's a larger piece and a smaller piece. Here's another one, larger piece and a smaller piece. Initially, I started working in diptychs because this was the size I could get in my car. And I wanted to be able to make these giant paintings, but I could only fit a 3x4 foot painting in my car. So I was like, I'm going to make 4x4 foot paintings in diptych style. So I generally observe the law of physics when it comes to diptychs and try really hard to just work with what I can. I do think there is something kind of powerful about working with segmented pieces that become a whole. I try to stay away from working in diptychs in such a way that they are the same composition repeated in different formats. I don't want to work decoratively, I guess is another way to say it.
Okay, another question from Jennifer Robertson. How are your biodegradable works, for example, carrier, preserved or conserved? This is a
Yes.
bit like bioart and the need for vacuum sealed containers.
Yes. Great question. I don't have a great answer. The answer is in my studio, I keep them under glass. I have glass clutches, like bell jars, basically, that I keep them underneath. I did find these giant ones at a thrift store that are like from my waist to my head, giant bell jars that I'm gonna make some kick-ass statue to put in at some point. They do change with time, specifically the honeycomb. There's a couple things that happen to it. The first is that you have to be careful not to accidentally, there can be mites that live in the honeycomb, and they can hatch into moths that eat the substance, which I didn't know initially. So my first flock of sculptures all of a sudden I was like, why are there like hundreds of moths in my studio? And it turned out they came from the sculptures themselves. But that can damage them. So I freeze the honeycomb before I work with it. For a good long, for at least a week, put in the freezer. And that will kill anything that is living inside of it. And then I keep it under glass. But the other thing that it does is it changes color. So in this particular piece, in this picture, you see the bottom of the honeycomb is darker than the top, and that's age. So it's actually the honeycomb oxidizing. In my particular work, while I could give you like there is the technical, like I don't have a vacuum sealed shenanigan to fix it and make it preserve it in an archival sense. I also am kind of interested in how time will interact with the piece, because time is part of my work, and our bodies change, and the animals that I draw change, and the honeycomb itself changes. And so rather than fighting that change, kind of embracing that, even to the detriment of the work, is a worthwhile pursuit to me.
Okay, the next issue that came up, just for information, is a link that Nancy Lawrence posted about your bees. So I just wanted to remind people to look at the chat, and also that the chat will be on the website. So you don't have to look at it right now. You can go back later and click on that link. And next question is for me. Practical me. How do you adhere the dimensional paper clay objects to the encaustic?
Great question. I glue them typically. Once the encaustic is finished, then I use a super glue and I glue them. The other thing you can do is you can use a paper clay slip, because the encaustic will bond with anything that's porous. And so when you've got, if I have an encaustic substrate and I pour some paper clay slip on it, so just watered down paper clay, the encaustic will bond to the paper clay once I fuse it a little bit, and then I can use the slip as like a glue and build the way a ceramicist would.
Very good. There was a question about a brand of paper clay, and then Lorraine gave us a link to the Amazon.
Yep, that's right.
Okay.
If you are going to use it in bulk, you make it. But the work that so let's see, let's go forward. These pieces are all done with commercial paper clay. I love the commercial paper clay that Lorraine made the link to. It's like so buttery and clean, and it's strong. It's fantastic. However, I'm not going to use that to make this because that's a lot of Amazon, you know. So there is actually a technique of making paper clay it's not difficult to make. So I use porcelain, regular porcelain clay, and then I turn it into paper clay for my larger pieces.
How do you do that?
It's not hard. You get a thing of porcelain, and it's just like, I just like want to put my face in it. It's so lovely and soft. And you put it in a large bucket, like a 5-gallon bucket, and you add some hot water, and then you squeeze the porcelain into the water till the whole thing is mud. And then in a separate bucket, you get some toilet paper, and you pour hot water over the toilet paper, and you agitate the toilet paper until it's all pulp. And then you put them together.
Do you
wonder
get
what
the toilet paper roll?
I take the roll out once it's soft.
Okay.
Yeah. But you know, you could use cardboard. And generally speaking, if you're working with paper clay, you're going to want a 30% fiber to 70% clay is the ratio that you want to go for strength. You can also fire paper clay. And that is one of the amazing things about it, is that if you fire paper clay, what you end up with is a very light object, because 30% of the body fires out in the kiln.
If you can fire it, can you also just like heat it with blowtorch
No.
or a heat gun or?
You can heat it with a heat gun, and it's not going to hurt it, but you wouldn't get a ceramic.
Okay.
You wouldn't get like a ceramic piece, because it doesn't have the uniform heat of a kiln, which is like, thousands of degrees.
Is there a reason?
What?
Oh, sorry. Is there a reason that you don't you just use the porcelain? Is the paper?
No, you can use stoneware. You can use anything. I just like the porcelain because it's white and it's easy to manipulate.
I meant making the paper, using a paper with it. What is there?
Instead of just porcelain?
Yes.
Because I'm not firing these large pieces.
I see.
These are made out of it. I actually, the addition that's probably important to mention is that there's a difference between paper clay, which you would use typically for firing, and then paper clay adobe, which has an additive in it. Sometimes glue. I use a wallpaper paste that I add to the clay, and it makes it so that it literally just dries and I don't have to fire it. It's like, you can see, like it's like hard, but it's not fired.
Yeah, there was a question about how heavy are your fountains?
They're so light. Yeah, because they're if you can imagine like a paper mache object, it's essentially like the same weight of a paper, like it's paper mache. They look really heavy. They're supposed to look like they're kind of concrete or stone, but the substrate behind them is cardboard.
Okay, to go back to the rosin, Jean Hess asked, what is the rosin that you use?
Oh gosh, it was just a 2-part resin that I bought from Home Depot.
Okay.
I think they don't sell it there anymore.
Very toxic.
It's so toxic, you guys. If you use it, it's a really amazing substance, but if you use it, you have to use a ventilator mask. It's very, very important to use a ventilator mask. But it's not difficult. So you get a 2-part resin. I got it from Home Depot. I know that you can get them from Dick Blick. You combine them. There's like what is it called? It's an epoxy. So there's like one part, there are 2 different liquids, and when you put them together, they harden. Okay. So you get the 2 parts in the bottle or 2 bottles, you put them together, you mix them, and then there's a brief period of time where it's pliable.
How are you wiring or installing the structure on them?
Which one?
I was wondering about the big one, the beehive that you went inside of.
Yes.
Like it's floating almost.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's supposed to look like it's floating. There's actually it's cord. It's really, really transparent cord that's hung from the ceiling. Um, yeah. Inside, let me think. I don't have a picture of it from the inside. Inside of it is a hexagonal wooden structure that the
Mm.
whole thing kind of hangs on. And it actually comes apart in 5 different places. So
So-
the roof comes off, and then it looks like it almost looks like a corseted dress, you know, like it's got a structure, and then it has the pieces that come out, and then each section is drilled into the hexagonal frame and taken apart.
Okay.
How did
Um,
you get, you talked about going inside of this. And
Yes.
did you come underneath, or does there?
No, there's a door. I have, you know what I could do? I have a picture of it. It's just not like the best. I don't have it on my website because I don't like how the photographer did it. Showed the door, but I can show it to you. Okay, this is, let me share this for you. Resume share. Give me a second. You know what, guys? I can't quite figure it out.
That's okay. Well, so there was like in the back of this, there was a something that opened and you could
Yeah.
step in.
Yeah, there was it's like a door. It opened, and I photographed it from this because it looks like a whole, like you can get the sense of it being a whole thing. But if you go around to the back, there's a door, and then it can fit one human really easily. Like me and all my kids got in there, but they're little.
What size is this? What size is it?
It is 9 feet tall.
Wow.
From the floor. So it's about a 6-foot object. And
Mhm.
then it's about a 5-foot diameter.
Wow. Amazing.
My friend, who is in a wheelchair, was able to get inside it. That was important to me.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay, the next question is from Penny, and I'm gonna have to ask her which image she's talking about. On this piece, is that drawing on tracing paper substrate? Also, is it loosely attached? And I'm not sure I know what piece she's
Talking
talking
about the
about.
quilts?
Penny?
It was that one,
This one?
going back.
That one?
Nope,
No.
no. It looked like it was a plant that was
is-
just on one piece of paper. There you
That-
go.
That
piece.
Yeah, so this is resin, and it's not tracing paper. It's actually, I taped off the rectangle, and then I did a really thin glaze of white acrylic, and then I did the graphite on top of the white acrylic.
And then did you add a drop shadow to it so that it looks like it's kind of dimensional?
I mean, what you can see in this piece is the white rectangle. You can see what's beneath it, like what I had drawn before.
Mhm.
And then so I left it transparent enough that you could see that. And then I just did it's a picture of a succulent that I drew on the right-hand side.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, and then Penny also mentioned that Dick Blick also has the creative paper clay if you don't want to use Amazon, and Michael's and Joanne's also.
Yep.
has it.
It's pretty and it's inexpensive, guys. It's really wonderful.
Okay, Carol, have I missed any of the questions?
No, you haven't.
Wow.
You were so busy. I was following it. You've got them all.
And just all hail Lorraine, because Lorraine was the one who taught me about the paper. Well, Lorraine taught me how to do encaustic, first of all, and then told me about the paper clay. So she needs a deep, deep props.
How about the
No way, honey. That's all your work. That's all your work.
How
Yeah.
about that one piece that was, what is this, the fabric, the one that's on the fabric that we just saw a minute
The
ago?
hides.
This
Yeah,
one?
what is that, muslin?
Yeah, this
Oh.
is muslin. Yep. And then there's a little bit of just like random fabric I found at a thrift store. There's a tablecloth, and then the transparent fabric is like a polyester organza, something like that.
Mhm.
And these I also had to prep with matte medium for them to accept the graphite as well. These were not the easiest thing to create because fabric is so lovely and soft that it doesn't want to take on the graphite. So I prepped it with matte medium to give it a tooth, but then the fabric itself is kind of scratchy and stiff, so you have to work with it kind of delicately.
Well, this has
Okay.
been, I mean, so
Incredible.
incredible and wonderful and exciting and filled us with so many things we want to try.
Good.
Oh, I'm ready to go out and buy paper clay.
Yeah, buy paper clay, buy paper, and follow me on Instagram if you guys can. I'd love to get to know each one of you. That's where most of my process is. I am on Facebook also, but most of my process I post through Instagram. I'll have a big show in May of my big sculptures once they're all done. My professor said to me before spring break, she said to me, Skyler, is this a modest goal? And I said, I don't know what you're asking me. And she goes, can you get this done? And I was like, I don't know modest goals. Yes, I'll get it done. So I'll be pedal to the metal, but I'll be showing pictures of the pieces in full and everything.
Well, let us know so we can, put it in our newsletter and see it,
Yes.
somewhere.
Oh, and actually, I don't know if any of your members are in Ann Arbor, Michigan, but I do have a large show up at Ann Arbor right now, at Michigan Medicine, which is actually my preference for like places to show my work would be museums and hospitals is where I would really like my work to be shown, because a museum, anyone can come to the museum. And unfortunately, anyone can come to the hospital. And I would really like my work to be in a place where people are in need of some healing. And so I have it was a very exciting thing for me to be able to show in the hospital in Ann Arbor. So
Nice. Well, congratulations.
thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
much for having me, you guys. This
So
was
wonderful.
really fun.
Really, thank you.
Thank you, Skylar.
We will keep in touch for sure because we have other things that we might like you to do for us.
That's very exciting.
Oh, yes.
Good work, Lorraine.
Okay, I will
So-
stop my share. Thank you again for everything. Y'all have been amazing.
Thank
It's
you
been
so
you.
much.
Thank you,
Fabulous.
Skylar.
Fabulous.
Awesome.
Very thrilling. Thanks again, Scott.
Fabulous.
We do need to go on with the rest of our meeting now, but that was so fabulous that, wow.
Yeah, I hope people, several people left, so I hope those who want to share their
Yeah.
work and say a few
That
words
was
are still here.
We'll do the new members again and make their little intros short because we don't want to lose. We did go over time on, but everybody I think enjoyed it and was worth it.
Oh, yes.
I do have to go. Thank you all so much. I wish I could
Bye,
say it,
Skylar.
but thank you. Bye.
Boring.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Skylar, bye-bye. Okay. So Suzanne, let's continue with that. Before I do that, I want to change the agenda just slightly. Before we go on, I'd like to just announce a couple of the CAA things that we are offering, and I think I'm going to ask Quay Lin to to step here first, to tell us about some of the new ideas that are going to be in the thing. And I want to mention that Barbara, about any workshops that are coming up, and of course the maybe I'll just say all of this. Quaylin, do you have anything you want to add first? That's brief.
Yeah, just that people, all the members of Collage Artists are welcome to submit works that they've done for publication in the newsletter. The publication is just like a PDF that gets stored in our website. It's, you know, not a fancy thing, but it is there, and you know, people of all types are and levels can show their work. But we're also trying to do other things too. We want to get some ideas from you about what you'd like, what topics you might want to cover, because I haven't asked that for a while. Jean Hess has a new column called Colloquy. I guess she's left because we run a little long, but she's got always open to ideas on what kinds of fairly conceptual topics you'd like. And even in the realm of like tips and tricks for techniques, we'd love some ideas too. So if you're able, does anyone right now have any ideas? If not, email me.
Please email Quaylin.
Yeah, email me, and my email is, I will put it in chat, Quaylin, KWEILIN 111 at AOL.com.
You can also find all our emails on the website.
That's true. And the newsletter.
And Barbara Mathis is always working on new ideas for workshops, and we will notify you of anything that comes up. And also she posted an interesting article in the newsletter about things that you can try, little challenges, little art challenges. So keep your eyes open for that. And be sure and read our newsletter, because it's always filled with a lot of interesting art and subjects. So now, Suzanne, let's go to you.
Well, those of you who are new, who were welcome today, who are here. I know Sean is here. I don't know if some of the people have left. So if you're new and you
We
want
have two Seans now. You have to differentiate us.
Sean, well, you're not new, so.
New
Now is the
I'm
time,
old.
if you put your name in the chat that you want to introduce yourselves and show a couple of your art pieces, now is the time.
I think Adrian put her name in.
Okay,
So,
and Sean
Adrian.
on
Okay.
Lee put her name in, I think.
Yes.
We had
Well, so let's just start. Let's start with her.
One
She
of the
put her-
Okay,
Adams,
Adrian, do you want to unmute yourself, please?
Let's do it, and then others can put up their name while we're
just
listening.
introduce yourself and
Okay.
We're-
Am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Okay, I'm Adrian Diedick. I'm real excited to join this organization. My background's in printmaking. Then I moved to fabric collage, and my artwork is figurative, generally female figure. And I really want to get more abstract, more textural, more painterly, more is more. I'm not there yet. So I'm really looking forward to being inspired by artists in this organization. This is a sample of my work, if you can see there. It's a 8x10 fabric collage. I generally work a little larger, but I just thought this would be an example. It's my design, but inspired by Gustav Klimt. So I think that's it. Yeah.
so much, Adrian. That's sweet. A nice little piece. I like that.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I think Sean,
I'll go ahead and
There
unmute
she-
myself.
Donna.
Have I been unmuted?
Yep.
you're unmuted. You're
Okay,
good.
I'm sorry if you hear a little background noise. The roofer just showed up. But anyways, my name is Sean Lee, and my background is I was trained as an illustrator, but ended up in animation as a colorist and a color supervisor. And I worked on shows like Rugrats and Ren and Stimpy. So it really wasn't until COVID that I really had this really deep need to do my own work. And so since then, I've been working on a series, or not, I shouldn't say since then, a couple of different series, but the newest one is based on dreams of my own and imagery borrowed from others. So what was really exciting was the two of the pieces that I did, I entered the juried show, and one of them behind me was accepted. So I'm gonna just kind of move away. This is my dog, Teddy, and you can kind of see it.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it. I mean, I've been, it's really interesting because I was thinking about how I started with cut paper, and here I am back again, but on a bigger scale.
Thank you.
So-
That's
Thank you.
I'm glad you came to the show, and thank you for entering.
Any other new members, or if not, if anyone else has an announcement to make, now's the time about any shows you might be in or
Comments or questions?
questions?
Carol?
Okay. I have actually 3 shows coming up, which is kind of overwhelming, but great. I've got one show downtown LA at the Makery. That'll be a live show, and the reception for that is April 7th. And then have another show in Santa Clarita, also a live show that will be, the opening, I think, is April 18th. Is that correct, Barbara?
I
think it's the 18th. Yeah, I think so. And then the online show, Interplay, of course, Collage Artists of America, and that reception is online on the 6th of April. So I'm really thrilled and delighted and amazed.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Anybody else raise your hand or unmute and
Since I'm on here, I will
Sweetheart.
be showing at Gloria Delson Contemporary Arts Gallery in April. It's an IAA USA exhibit that's going to be in that gallery, and the theme has to do with spring or gardens or something, I think. So, and I have a couple of pieces in Interplay, which was really wonderful to get anything accepted there with the competition. Okay, SP, I think, was waving her hand. I saw. You're muted. You're muted, SP.
There we go. Anyway, I just want to thank you, Lynn, for all of your work that you do on the newsletter, because I'll just put like a little note out there, then she will take it and she'll make like a nice ad. And I love to see what everybody else is doing in our group. So I really thank you for that. And it's so graphic, and it's always a pleasure to get. And she just posted my show that's currently in Palm Desert. It's on El Paseo, and it's a collection I did in collaboration with another artist who lives in Portland, Oregon. Her name is Dick Camille, and she did the backgrounds for these. There's a series of 7 paintings, and the theme is Elizabeth Taylor's Jewels. And she did the backgrounds where it's mixed media, and it's each one is on a different one of her gems. For instance, one is Elizabeth Taylor's diamonds, one is Elizabeth Taylor's emeralds, and it's as pictures of her, and then she did the backgrounds, mixed media, and then I did the gem as a painting on top of her backgrounds. And there's a series of 10 paintings, and they're there probably through April. So if you're out in the desert, it's just a fun, it's spring break, everybody. So anyway, you're all invited, and thank you so much. I love the group.
Well, you've been showing a lot, so congratulations on that. You've had just had a show. I wish I could have gone, but
Thanks.
Can we see any of those online?
Yes,
Um,
I do post on Facebook, and I am following all of you, and also on Instagram, and I'm following you guys.
Could you send us something, push a little bit? I don't know how to find
Something
you.
for us. Could you send us a link?
Okay.
Is there
anyone else?
Yeah.
Yes.
I
Barbara.
also am in the Santa Clarita show with Carol. And yes, it is April 18th, the reception, which is a Thursday night. And also I have a digital art in a show. The title is Colorscapes. It's photo art folio, and I'll put the link in the chat.
I have something too. I was in the Colony Theater in Burbank. I had 2 pieces there. It just took it down and during March. And also I was in a show in Oceanside Covet Gallery, and my piece sold.
Yay!
Wow.
Yeah, so that's
That's
lovely.
always nice.
Anybody else?
Yes. Yes, I do. Okay,
Quaylen?
yes, I do have something.
Well,
Okay,
go-
I guess, okay, I don't know if you can hear me. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Not this weekend, but next weekend during Easter weekend. I'm having a small press table at WonderCon in Anaheim, and it's in the small press section. Much of my work is like self-published, so I'm going to and sometimes a publisher, but not that often. I have my paper dolls, and I'm going to have like 4 of my, I don't even know how to describe them, graphic novel-y kind of books called Fuzzy Village, and they're going to be on display too, in addition to a few, like a postcard and some cut totems out of paper, kind of crudely cut totems. So it's a different kind of a venue than others, but WonderCon in Anaheim.
Nice, thank you. Anybody else? Anyone, any other announcements or any questions for the board? And at this point, it's a little late. I should have done it earlier, but I have to, and I must, and I'm so grateful for all of the board members and all the work that they do. You're all so steadfast and dependable, and it means a lot to me personally, and it means a lot to all of our members. So thank you very much.
And thank you, Sylvia, for all that you do.
Yes.
Thank you, thank you, thank
Thank
you.
you, Sylvia.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That was really nice meeting you guys all. Thank you. That was a great program.
Yeah, my biggest job is just hurting everybody. Anyway, thank you all. I think that concludes our meeting. It was exactly 2 hours, so that's not too bad. And I'll see you next time, and love to you all. Stay well. Have a good spring, and we'll see you in May.
Before we go, Sylvia, Lauren was not here, our publicity chair. She's also handling, what's it called? World Collage Day. And we'll be reaching out to our members to sign up. We're going to have a show your collage. Carol Priamo's also working on our graphic for that. So our PR chair works diligently from Michigan, and she is very busy. So anyway, you will be hearing about that soon.
Yes,
Okay.
Carol is
And
working on.
Lorraine, thank you for finding such a jewel.
Oh, yeah.
Our speaker, amazing. Wow.
She really is.
Excellent. Mhm.
She's lovely. We've been
Yes.
friends for about 10 years. I really love her.
Well, you guys are
She's great.
terrific.
Terrific.
Thank you, Lorraine.
So
Yeah,
with
I'm
that,
gonna
welcome.
leave, so happy spring, happy
too.
Easter, and we'll see some of you at the reception on April 6th.
Okay, I'm
Yes.
gonna stop recording now.
Bye-bye.
now recording is